All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Heidi Williams, and I am ISTE's Computer Science Network President. On the call with us today, too, we also have Joe Kamash, who is part of our ISTE network. He is on our team as well. He does the newsletter, so if you've ever gotten a newsletter from the Computer Science Network, it would have come from all the hard work that Joe puts into it. I lovingly call him the grandfather of computer science. He is a retired educator and was grassroots at getting things started in Wisconsin for computer science standards. So with us today, we have Chriso, and I will let Chriso pronounce her last name because I always butcher it, as well as Alicia. I don't do well with Alicia's last name either. Neither one are phonetic, so I was an elementary teacher by trade. But Chriso is the CEO of FUNecole. She is in Cyprus, so she is joining us from Cyprus. And Alicia is a teacher in Mississippi who is currently using the product and was using the product pre-COVID-19. And also because of the way it's set up, they're also, I believe, using it post-COVID-19 during our crisis here. So I will let Chriso first introduce herself as the CEO, and then she'll turn it over to Alicia.
Hi from me. It's a privilege meeting you all tonight. For me, it's night. For you, it's still day. We are ahead of some hours. So I would like to share my screen for a brief welcome and show you a bit of the work that we have been doing here in Cyprus for the last 20 years. So let me just share my screen. Okay, that is the first slide. Okay, it's all about, we are going to be presenting the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution and the profound change that everything brings out to be. These are the fourth generation characteristics about cloud computing, social networks, mobile access, and Internet of Things, as well as artificial intelligence. And it's all about all these changes that enable us, or not, I should say, not enable us, make us change our education and our instruction.
Someone else needs to mute because there's feedback.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, let's go one step further, please, Heidi. So it is imperative for students to be dynamic innovators, global collaborators, critical and creative problem solvers, and connect our schooling to the future jobs. Actually, what I was going to say here is that according to the World Economic Forum, back in 2018, they said that 54% of the global employees would have to reskill and upskill. And actually, I was talking to the seminar participants that I was then teaching back then in 2018, and nobody could believe that this could be happening. Actually, today, what will happen with the COVID-19 crisis, I was hearing about a factory in France that used to build equipment for the airplanes. Now they're making masks. So everything is changed, and in their personnel and their whole work flow. So this is happening. Unfortunately for all of us, it's happening, and it's happening fast. Anyway, now I wanted to present the FUNecole curriculum and solution about developing the whole child, and I wanted to present what FUNecole is all about. So it's all about computer science, developing computer science skills, digital literacy, social emotional learning, 21st century skills and streams in education. And we're going to be talking to you a little bit more about the whole thing and the approach. The learning approach is always introduce a real world problem for children, enable them to collect evidence, allow them to design complex solutions, and of course, the big thing is to apply existing knowledge to solve other problems, different problems, new things. So as far as computer science is concerned, it's all about developing the whole child, and that is the computer science part of FUNecole. And we start from very early ages to teach them computer science skills, video animations, common applications, and all of that. FUNecole is aligned to the ISTE standards for students and the Cambridge International Examinations. This is a glimpse of some of the FUNecole lessons, the themed lessons that go from from primary year 1 to primary year 6, actually, and some of the themes here. And of course, this is the seal of alignment of ISTE. We are best educational practice in the EU countries and endorsed by University of Cambridge for ICT Starters International Examinations. And that's it about FUNecole. And from me, I want to thank you briefly and give the floor to Alicia to share with all of you her experiences with the product, solution, and the platforms as well.
Hello, I am Alicia Verwee. My name is a lot easier to say than what it looks like. It is of Dutch origin. I work in Picayune, Mississippi, which is a little bitty speck on the map, along with Miss Sandra Spanks, who is on. We are in the same district. I have been using FUNecole now for a little over, right about 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. We have been using FUNecole school-wide for the duration of this school year. We started at the very end of last year incorporating, and we've used it all of this school year from kindergarten through 6th grade. We've implemented the program. She's pulling that up. I'll just, as I was saying, we are using this in kindergarten through 6th grade. One of the things that I really, really love about the program is how flexible it is. It really can be tweaked to work with your school any way that you choose to. And what I mean by that is, but although we're using it in kindergarten through 6th grade, we're actually only using 3 levels of the program. So we use the year 1, 2, and 3. And the reason for that is we are relatively new, and there we go. And we do not really, we don't really utilize computer science to the degree that Chriso's students and some other students may be used to. So if you're a district that's really heavy in implementing computer science, you may find that you will use it a little bit differently than we do. We only went through the first 3 years because our 6th graders just are not ready from the computer science standpoint to go past that integration level. And so it's really just kind of something that is flexible and tweakable to your school and your district. So what you're looking at right now is the basic platform. When you open up and you log in, this is your teacher view that you're going to see. And this basically takes you to what we call the dashboard. And so you can see here you have the option for the FUNecole courses, which is going to show you what courses are available. You've got your students by class. This shows you all of the different years that are available and the programs of study information for each year. And then if you go back to the dashboard and click on students by class, this will give you for each class that you have set up. So I'm a gifted teacher and I teach 2nd through 6th grade gifted. So for me, I have a class for each one of those classes. So that's 5 classes. You'll see here it says the green 1A. Well, that's one course that this teacher has. And so when you scroll through, you can see all of the students according to the class that they are assigned to. So this just sort of gives you an easy overview section. And then if you go back to the dashboard, you can see the class analytics. So this is if you're wanting to look at the data according to each class. It's taken just a minute. There we go. And this will give you how many projects you're looking at, activities, assessments, everything that that class has done and how they're performing as a class. And then if you will go back, Heidi, to the dashboard, right in the center where it says view my classes, if you'll click there. Then you can see this teacher has several different classes available. And if you scroll down, Heidi, I want to go to the yellow course. Yep, right there, the one in the middle. If you'll click enter course. Yep. So this is taking you into the course itself, and you see each course is set up with multiple lessons. Heidi, if you'll scroll down, the lesson we're going to highlight is lesson 14. Now, for us in our district or at our school, we utilize the yellow year, which is year 3. We use it in 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. Our teachers are doing FUNecole about once a week. Some use it a little bit more than that, but that's the minimum. And basically, we have different grade levels using that same platform. And so what we have is 4th grade using more of the beginner lessons, where 5th grade sticks to sort of the middle of the road. And then 6th grade is, because it is a new year for us, they have actually used from the mid of that year on through toward the end. And so that's just sort of staggering those computer science skills. If you will click on to go into the lesson itself, Heidi. Yep. Oh, her lesson has been completed. Okay. So here, if you see over to the left-hand side of the screen where it says lesson completed, this has already been completed because this teacher has already taught it. But what you can see here is where the teacher is going to actually assign what she wants to do. So although the curriculum is there and it's laid out for you, you have the option as a teacher to customize your lesson any way that you like. So you can do everything that's here. You can do only certain pieces of what's here, and it really is completely up to you as a teacher what you choose to implement. So where do you see the little dots on the right-hand side of the words? You can move them around if you want them in different orders, which you see Heidi's doing there. Or if you click on them, it gives you the option to actually delete things. So you can delete. You can also go to the left-hand side of the word, and where it has the little dot, you see there's an unlock. So if you click that, it's going to allow for that to be unlocked.
So the students can view it from their website.
Once you unlock it, then the student can actually see it. Until you unlock that assignment, the student cannot view. And if you guys will bear with me here, what I'm going to do on my end is I am going to actually log in to the student, and I'm going to send that to Heidi as well, so that Heidi will be able to show this from
The student perspective.
yes.
The other thing I was really, really impressed with is the fact that it doesn't matter what platform a school uses. So if you're using Microsoft, you're going to have a product from Microsoft. And you'll see, like, it'll say Safari, Google Chrome, Apple Keynote, Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint. that allows you to choose specifically what platform your district or your school might be using and assign the things that go with that. So if you're a Microsoft school, you can select the Microsoft PowerPoint for for Project 5. But if you are a Google Slide, if you're Google, then you can pick the Google Slides for the same project. So the platform is really versatile.
Correct. And also, if you are one of those schools and say you only want to offer that option, under the administrative side, when you set up your platform, you actually have the option to go in and select for that to be the only one that shows up. So that way you won't have to delete each and every one of those. You would be able to simply just have that as the only choice that's going to show up. So if you say, well, we're only a Google school and we only want to use Google, well, then when your administrator sets it up, if they set it up that way, you won't have to delete all of those. Whereas for us, we are predominantly a Google school. However, I use all platforms. And so we have all of them available. And what we do is, as I said, I teach gifted. So my students are shared with other teachers. So the same students that I have, all of our third grade teachers have, and the same students I have, all of our sixth grade teachers have, and so on. And so what we have is that child actually has 2 different teachers within this one platform. So they log in and they select their account. And this is nice because I can actually have them complete the same assignment, and I can do it in a few different ways. I can do it by adding some things to the assignment. I can have them do the exact same assignment, but on a different platform. So from a computer science standpoint, they're learning some different tools in a different platform. Or I can add on and they can actually do the same assignment that they've already done for another teacher. They upload to me as well. And then what we do is it changes from a discussion standpoint. So I've used it in several different ways, just depending on the assignment that we are dealing with and what's happening in the classroom at that time and where they are on that assignment with other teachers. So it is something that you can use if you are a departmentalized grade and you want multiple teachers in the same grade level to be using it, you can, and you can be on the same lesson or you can not be on the same lesson. So that works well also. Heidi, I just sent you a student account. If you would, we don't want to swap to that yet, but you're going to have that in just a minute because I want to be able to show them in a second what that's going to look like. But while we're here, if you will go over to that left-hand side on your screen for just a moment, you will see where it says lesson instruction. It's right underneath lesson detail. This is a relatively new feature that they've added, and I love this feature. This is where you can go in as a teacher and create your own set of additional instructions. You can add additional attachments to customize the lesson. And so while I'm talking about the fact that multiple teachers use this, we also have a SPED teacher. And obviously, if your school deals with TST or special education in any way, often we have to do differentiation in our classrooms and we need special accommodations for those students. This is where you can put in things for those purposes. And that works really well for the student to be able to see that information. So this is a great new feature that they've added. And down at the bottom, it actually has where you can set up attachments. So if you want to give them, maybe you like using specific websites. This is something that I've done in some of mine is, I want to limit them to specific websites. And so I can list those here. Our SPED teacher has used this to put in certain accommodation sheets that she uses with specific students for things like reading tools or math tools. And so this makes it a really easy, accessible way to add all of that right here. So it's all inclusive with the lesson. And then of course, if you save, that will, show up as part of your instruction. And if you look over to the right across the top, you see lesson overview, mode of delivery, and you have options there. The lesson overview, we'll go through those one at a time. The lesson overview gives you just that. what is the summation? What are we dealing with within the lesson? What is the theme? What is our focal point? The mode of delivery, if you go there, is another place. If you prefer a different view, you can go here and you can actually delete items from your lesson here, just as you could on the left-hand side. So if you're someone who wants to go in and you want to see more of like that lesson plan template as you're creating and editing, you can do that here. If you notice the little trash cans, if you click those, it deletes. The paper clips are attachments showing you, what's there. And that is what the student is going to see. So if you are looking at that and you want to see the student view, that's what the paper clip is. So you can see exactly what the student's going to see on their end from the project standpoint. So you can read through it. This will help you decide if you need additional information, your instructions, etc. And then the lesson objectives up at the top. These are going to break down depending on each specific task or assessment area. What specifically are we covering? So you see in Project 1, it tells you very specifically what you're dealing with in Project 1. When you're dealing in Project 3, what is our focus for Project 3, and so on. So it's a very detailed list for what you're covering. And then if you go back to the top,
I was going to say too, when you look at like a lot of the different projects, another thing I was really impressed with is the fact that they're covering the social emotional learning. So if you're using, second chance or second step for social emotional learning, a lot of the second step pieces are already embedded in here.
Yes, and that's what I was going to kind of show you here in the standards alignment. If you look, depending on what you want to know in terms of what standards you're covering, it's broken down for you here. So if you're looking at social emotional and that's your big focus, then all of your social emotional skills are together for you. If you're looking for 21st century skills, those are all combined for you. ISTE skills, computer science skills. For the computer science folks that are on, you have a lot of different options. You can be looking at it from a Cambridge standpoint. You can be looking at it from the Computer Science Teachers Association, or you can be looking at it from the UK computing standards. So really you have a lot of variations. You also have, which this teacher doesn't have, but you also have Common Core, and you have gifted alignment as well that's built in. So it's really nice that you can sort of choose what angle that you are approaching this from.
And going back to the Cambridge ICT starters, and I know this dates myself, but when the internet first came out when I was teaching, like in my middle career of my teaching, that dates me a little bit. I remember doing curriculum alignments where, okay, well, where are we going to teach Microsoft? At that time it was Microsoft because it was pre-Google. Where are we going to teach the kids how to create slides? Where are we going to teach them how to use Excel? Where are we going to teach them how, to use email and have good etiquette? And that's really what those Cambridge ICT starters are. They're all embedded and they're all progressional, because I know in the districts that I was in, we did all that work and then we kind of went away from it and it got lost. And it's like, now there's no systemic way of how we're going to do that anymore. And it's really built in here.
Well, and then you're also looking at one thing there, Heidi. And so I know, at least in my district, and I know from talking with teachers, it's kind of that way across the board in most cases is, yeah, this is your skill set that you're supposed to teach, but we want to see how you're integrating everything. And so then it becomes not just how am I going to teach this and this isolated skill, but how am I now going to throw in this component and this component and this component. And so it can really get overwhelming really quickly if you're having to piecemeal all of that stuff. And one of the great things about this software is that it's all there for you. It's all done for you. And we're going to talk a little bit more specifics on that when I pull up one of the projects here in just a little bit. The computing skills, obviously, if that is your focus, this is going to break it down for you according to the specific platform that you're dealing with. So this is a really nice, for those computer science teachers, this is a really nice view for you to take a look at. Not only platforms, but you have platforms and skill sets. So you have both of those working together. You know, what objectives am I covering, but also am I getting that wide array, a variety of platforms, so that I'm not sticking this child in one hole, you know, and leaving them there.
Look at curriculums, and I know that we didn't talk a whole ton about this yet, but I noticed that, you know, when you talk about STEAM and you talk about project-based learning, that this curriculum really has all the components there for you of all the different pieces for STEAM. And you can add things in and you can take things out, but it makes those connections for you, which is just phenomenal. The other thing I noticed too, if anybody's using C3 framework, I know a lot of state social studies standards were built off the C3 framework. A lot of these pieces are really organized into, you know, it starts with, especially at our younger years, it starts with like myself, and then it goes to my family, and then it goes to, you know, our community, and then it goes to our world. So it's really building off those pieces for the C3 standards in social studies as well.
Yeah, and we are adding now the universe part.
So global collaboration. And I like, there has not been any time more than now with COVID-19 where I have seen global collaboration on a scale I've never seen before. It's just amazing. I was on a webinar the other day where we were looking at some more resources to help teachers, and there were teachers from all over the country in that one. It was just amazing. It floors me how much teachers are willing to share with each other regardless of the country you're in. My daughter actually, as a first grade teacher and being a brand new teacher, was collaborating with a teacher from Australia, and she was giving her some strategies and tips in dealing with special needs populations because she had an autistic student, and just to hear the resources and how they deal with things differently, it was just absolutely amazing.
Okay. All right. So Heidi, if you will refresh on your student screen, it will bring up what I assigned. Okay. And if you'll go into lesson 14 and hit enter lesson. So what I want to do here is show you guys, number one, what does it look like when the student is logged in? What are they seeing now that I've decided what I want to unlock for them? So I've planned my lesson. I've unlocked the things that I want them to see. Across the top, you see those boxes. And just like we read from left to right, that's how the projects are going to show up for them, from left to right. And as they complete things, it will bring a new one to the very front at the left. And so what we're going to do is kind of go through this. I want you guys to see how the lessons are structured. Before we start, I'm going to kind of give you an overview. So each lesson begins with some sort of social emotional issue. So you're starting out with some sort of problem that the characters need to address. And so this opens up that dialogue for that social emotional aspect of teaching. They have to decide what their problem, they're going to tell you what the problem is, and they're going to discuss it amongst themselves. And then this either opens up for what could be either a writing prompt or what could be a discussion if you're using discussion platforms like you have through some of the Google features, like you're using a chat or something like that where you're actually talking with your students. Or you could have this where the students are writing back some sort of comment feed so that they're commenting on their thoughts from the videos while we're doing distance learning. But it starts out with that.
Do you want me to play the video, Alicia, so they can see the video?
If you give me 1 second, I'm going to kind of tell them the flow so that their mind is sort of set up as to what process is happening. So they're going to watch the video, and then immediately it's going to be assessing the students. And so we are consistently throughout the software at every step of the way getting some sort of feedback. And as we know that as teachers, this is crucial, right? And right now, for me especially, we are in a high poverty area. And so I wonder a lot about my students' well-being at home right now. I'm not seeing them every day. And this is a great way to get a feel for, how are they mentally right now? How are they dealing with things in a a home environment that may not be wonderful? Is there anything that I need to know? And of course, you're not talking to them. So a lot of those things we're normally able to pick up on in class right now, we may not be able to. This gives us another avenue for that because they're answering questions in a non-threatening, safe environment, and you're able to see that feedback. So you're constantly getting that. And then once you've gone through the process of the videos and the assessments, they begin to do the task. And so we'll see what those project tasks look like. So Heidi, if you'll go ahead and go through the video, which is called The Scene.
Welcome to our new episode. Today we will be solving interesting problems. How did you do at the science exam, Star? I got an A, Zelos. How about you? I didn't do so well. Don't be sad, Zelos. You will do better next time. Thanks, Starjack. I want to improve my grades overall. I know I can, and I will.
That's the spirit, Zelos. I know you can do it.
Thank you, Mr. Attitude. Do you happen to have any tips for me? I pay attention in class, and I make sure that I ask questions about anything that troubles me.
And then you see immediately the assessment pops up. So once the video is finished, it's automatically telling the student, now I need some data from you. And so it's asking them, you know, how they're feeling. And notice there's a little speaker icon there. So if you have a child who may be a struggling reader, they can click that and it will read the question to them. And then they select their answer. Click the complete button and it goes immediately to the next assessment that it wants them to answer. So you're ready to start working and collaborating in groups with your classmates. And Heidi says, no, she's not. So that's going to give me an indication. Maybe something's going on at home that I might need to be aware of because Heidi's not really feeling like talking to other people right now or working with other people. And then there's another video. Now, if you'll scroll up for just a second, Heidi, at the top, if you notice the video we're on is now the first thing all the way to the left-hand side. And if you look over to the right, you'll notice the things that are already been completed by the student are now over to the right. They're that sort of grayed out color and they have a check mark. So that way the student knows they have already completed these aspects of the assignment. So if you'll go and show them the next video.
And also, I know that we worked really hard, and I know we gave feedback too, especially like from the United States viewpoint, to have culturally responsive videos.
Welcome to our new episode. We are excited to see you all again. I'm determined to be a better student. That is a great decision, Zelos. We are all here to help you. Thank you very much. Do you have tips for good study habits that will help me succeed? Study your homework regularly. But how can I study for a difficult exam? The main point is not to allow little things that you do not understand to overwhelm you. What do you mean, Ram? Always make sure that you understand the concepts. The wise thing is not to
Heidi,
allow
can you put the subtitles?
slip by. I know what you mean. I need to ask a lot of questions about everything that I do not thoroughly understand. Exactly. This is how we learn new information step by step. You can always collaborate with others and learn from them. Just make sure that you do not leave the class confused or unsure about the subject. The most valuable learning happens when you teach others and actively contribute in group projects.
I saw someone commenting about them speaking sort of quickly. I think some of it is a little bit of the feedback that we're getting right now. It's not really as bad as you think. I haven't had any complaints from the students on any of that. I think a lot of it is with the reception here. You're kind of hearing a lot of the background noise more than you're hearing them. And so it makes it a little bit more difficult to follow what they're saying.
Yeah, and I have my feedback, well, and I have my video set to like, I think like 1.25, so faster than normal. And I don't know if that carries across all videos or not, because yeah, sorry guys.
I was going to say, because I did find it going a little faster than what I'm used to seeing it happen as well.
Yeah.
And we're in the South, so we talk real slow. We're kind of countrified around here. So if my students are good and can follow them, you guys should be good to go. This is now obviously the next thing, which is the project. This is where we're getting into, we want them to actually complete tasks now. So they've looked at the video, we've had the assessments. If you're in class, you may have had a class discussion about those videos and what's happening with the characters. And then now the students are ready to actually address the assignment. And so from the project standpoint, they are creating a real life a presentation about a real life problem. So we want them to think about something that is personal to them, moving from our country to somewhere else. So imagine that you were going to have to move to some place that you didn't know anything about, you didn't know anyone there, and so they're putting themselves in a social emotional situation as they're addressing this problem for the task. And you don't have any friends, and so you see it's setting up the scenario for them. I'm in a foreign country, I don't speak the language, so it's forcing them to think about cultural standpoints, it's forcing them to think about their own personal situation, and their family isn't there, so they're also alone. So it's putting them in a very specific headspace from a social aspect. And then they're looking at a presentation. And so what it's doing is telling them to use a presentation software. And now, of course, keep in mind, by this point, the students have had exposure to different types of presentational software. We are in the yellow level. And so they would actually get to choose. So you're looking to see, can they choose the proper platform if you're a computer science teacher? If you're not, and this is where you would want them to use a specific platform, this is where your additional instructions could come about. And that this way you would be able to tell them what platform you want them to use if you're in a situation such as that. I saw somebody asked about the grade level. This is the yellow, so it is year 3 according to them. But again, keep in mind, at my school, we are using this with our 6th graders from the computer science standpoint. So, again, flexible depending on your school and your district and how exposed you are and how immersed you are in computer science and different softwares and technologies.
It is one thing to I'll bring up when you talk about the years and stuff, to think that people in the EU in third grade, which is the yellow year 3, they're doing this stuff. And I agree with you. In the States here, like our 5th graders, like I feel like our 5th graders might be able to do this, but I don't feel like our 3rd graders would be at a place where they could do this.
Yeah.
And that flexibility is really nice.
And I don't have any students in our building below 4th grade actually using this. So, something to sort of look at and decide as a school. And again, this is the first year we've gone school-wide. And so you have to sort of take that into account as you integrate it as well, that, what you're using with your 4th graders right now, 3 years down the road in this software may not be what you're going to be using with your 4th graders. So you may want to start a little bit lower and then work your way up as the building is exposed and as their skill sets grow. And then it also is giving them the Scratch, where they can use Scratch in lieu of a presentation software. So if they don't want to do a slideshow and they want to do it from a Scratch standpoint, this is where, if you're a reading teacher, this may be a really good option, is to give them Scratch, because they're able to develop those characters and you get into more of those reading skills here. So you see down in the right, there is an actual example. So it lets them see this is kind of an idea of what we're asking for you to do. And then it gives them a step-by-step option. Down at the bottom, if you will scroll, what you're seeing here where it says open application, new slides, these are all hyperlinked, and I can't really see from Heidi's screen, but Heidi, up in the directions, if you'll scroll back up, in the directions, do you have some blue hyperlinks? Because I'm not able to see them. Like where it says open in the middle, working it out.
Yeah, I don't see any hyperlinks.
Okay.
Maybe you just open one of the presentations
I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
down.
this is
If they struggle, they'd be down here. So like, let's say they're struggling with changing the font in a Google slide. I'll open that one.
so click it. And this is actually step-by-step directions for the student on how to do this, which is awesome. So it's going to walk them through where's the button that I'm telling you to look for, how to do it, where you're going to find everything on your screen. It is very, very, very useful.
And I think getting kids used to using tutorials like this instead of going to the teacher, well, how do you do that? You know,
Yes.
to get them to use their resources and have perseverance and work through the problem and work through the directions that they're being given.
Correct. And I'll be honest with you, we have had teachers in our building that have learned just as much from this software program as our students have. They love the fact that the tutorials are there and they go through them as they're working through their lesson assignment, and they will come to me and say things like, oh, I learned how to use PowerPoint. It was really awesome. So it's kind of cute to see that part too, because the teachers get almost as much from this in a lot of scenarios as the students do. So this is where you would go, and then once the student has completed the assignment, if you go back up to the top, right underneath the banner, you see where it says choose a file or insert a link. And depending on what you are doing is going to depend on which of those you would choose. If you're using Google, then obviously you can, copy the link from your Google document and paste it into there, or your Google Sheets or your Google Slides. If you're using another format and maybe you're using Microsoft and you've saved that file, you can choose the file option and actually insert the file here. And once they have done that, it's actually going to move that into the student's solutions, and it's going to move that project over. So you have looked at project 3. Heidi, if you would click for me on project 6. This is another project that is within this lesson that I just want you to see what they're asking of the student to do. So in this one, we're dealing with opening an email software, checking their email, sorting emails. So you see there's a lot of those basic computer science things going on here. You're inserting the subjects, and they are asking them to write. And so you're also dealing with writing skills. And Zelos is looking for a way to improve his school performance. So not only is he writing, but now we have to solve a problem. We want to know how is he going to be able to do better in his school performance. So he's having to write a plan. So when you're talking about those STREAM skills, they're already incorporated into here. You're dealing with critical thinking, you're dealing with problem solving, you're dealing with summarizing, you're dealing with, being able to write out a plan of action. So you're dealing with a lot of those components as well as the computer science skills. And again, it is personal to the situation. And so you're having to think like Zelos and sort of put yourself in that social emotional situation. And so you also have those SEL skills. So you have a lot going on in this one project. And so that's something that I really, urge you to look at when you're looking at these projects. Is often teachers, as teachers, we kind of wear that one hat in the moment. We're in that math mode, and so I'm only looking at math, or I'm in that reading teacher mode, and so I'm only looking at that, or I'm only the computer science teacher. And so we tend to wear those singular hats, and then we get that frustration of, okay, now I have this great lesson, but now they want me to incorporate these other things, so how do I shove them into this? Whereas this has already done that for you. You don't have to backtrack and try to kill yourself to incorporate those other skill sets. They're already meshed in seamlessly.
I know as an instructional coach working with teachers too, like this one here, this Gmail email folders is like a huge skill that many teachers I helped work through, because there's still a lot of teachers out there, my daughter included, who has no idea how to create folders within her Gmail account to organize her email.
Right. And again, down on the right, you know, you see that example. So I love the fact that it gives the students the tutorials of the how to, and it also gives them an example. So, you know, in the world we live in where we're often working with one group of students on something here and we have another group of students working on something else, you can have the students working on these assignments from an independent standpoint and really have the tools that they need there for them, where they don't have to keep coming to you as the teacher to answer every little question. And so that's really nice. Let's see. I want to show the streams. If you can go back to the teacher account for me.
Yep.
I want to show the streams and I want to show the analytics so that they can see, well, how do I know that my student completed this?
So while I do that, can you go through the chat and just make sure and like, I would love to take some questions because I know we're getting toward the end of the hour and I do want to honor
Yes.
people's time, but yet we'll stay on for anybody that wants to see these other components.
Let's see here. How did you convince your school to adopt FUNecole? Well, this was actually a challenge in the beginning. I started with it, and of course, you know, when the gifted teacher starts something, everybody says, it's gifted, you know, it's for the gifted kids, and you know, your kids can do it, obviously. But as my principal began to look at the program, and one of the big things that really came down the pipeline was the mandate of social emotional skills having to be brought into the classroom. And so that created a perfect door opener in my situation to have them utilize the software. So once they were able to see that the social emotional was there, as well as all of these other things, they didn't have to go out and find a new curriculum to try to do the things that they were trying to do. So a lot of it is really getting them into the program, getting your decision makers in and letting them see. And I think a lot of the software components speak for themselves if you can get them to take a look at it. And Joe, I hope I answered that question. I see the grade. I think we answered in the middle of it.
There is a question about, do you have a visual map of who is using FUNecole?
Right.
Actually, FUNecole is used in Europe, in the Middle East before going on to America.
My school was actually the first U.S. school to implement. So we were on the cutting edge of bringing this over. I saw it and absolutely fell in love with the software. And, you know, one of the things that also, if you're like me in education, we often get these things thrown at us or promises made by different companies about everything the software does. And I am sort of, and I say this with Chris O'Hare, I'm sort of one of those that I sort of approach things from a negative Nancy perspective, I guess. And I say that meaning we get a lot of promises that don't tend to pan out in education. You know, this is this awesome new thing and it does all this stuff. And then once you get it and you start using it, you're like, yeah, okay, you said it did this, but it really doesn't do that. And so I took that approach when I first started looking at the software, as I approached it from what isn't here that they say is, and what doesn't it do that they're telling me it does. And it far exceeded every expectation that I had. And it is even further exceeded those expectations as we have used the software. They have listened to feedback and it has grown leaps and bounds even in the last year. From an already awesome software to a phenomenal software platform. The customer service is something else that, you know, if you're looking as a school to implement and you are a school that you feel is going to need a little more hand-holding, from a customer service standpoint, I can't say enough great things. I mean, when you ask a question, you get almost an immediate response. And for dealing with a company that there's a 7-hour time difference, that was something that was pleasantly surprising to me, as I figured there would be much more of a delay in getting those responses, and it really isn't. So I think that was also a big push from my administrator to move forward school-wide, is due to a lot of the support that we got when we test piloted.
Yeah. Awesome questions, guys. So I will do another screen share then and share my screen. And should be back up.
Yep. And if you go back in and for the classes. And go to
I
the.
just wanted to know the printed portfolios are in US English, huh?
Yes, yes. And then enter course on the yellow.
3A.
Yes. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go back.
So 3B.
Okay, yes, yeah, 3A is fine. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're in under hers, and I'm used to looking for mine. So scroll down. Lesson 14. If you click on where it says 22 students, here you can see this is all of the students and their solutions. So just click on the first one that has 3 solutions. And so as a teacher, when you go here and you want to see what your students have done, if you click on the view option, you can see what they've turned in. And so you can see what that student turned in for that solution. And then if you go back to the student, and then, nope.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, that's okay. Back to the student and click on one of the assessment views. And this is what I was talking about. So you can see the question and you can see the answer that the student gave, so that you know, how is Johnny or Susie doing, or how are they feeling? This again will give you those indicators where they may not be willing to necessarily verbally answer. In a situation like this, they feel a little safer to give you a real true perspective. And so even when we're in school, this can give you indicators in terms of, hey, maybe I need to write a counselor form for this child, or maybe I need to have a discussion with this student about whatever's going on because something's obviously bothering them. Plus you have their solutions to the project. So this is where you would go and be able to view their solutions to be able to score their projects. If you go back and scroll back down to lesson 14. Okay. And go into the view analytics from here. This is going to give you data in terms of the entire lesson for your students. So you can see things like how many assessments and projects were done. Scroll up just a little bit, Heidi. One of the things I want you to notice is there's peer reviews. And because we only have one student in the demo and that student hadn't uploaded, we couldn't do a peer review, but they actually can peer review each other. So this is a great thing for distance learning right now, and that quest for how do we keep our students collaborating. They actually can still see each other's work and be able to give feedback to each other. So that way they still feel some sort of connection and they're still collaborating with their classmates. And so that's a really nice feature as well. If you go back to the lesson screen and go into the lesson itself, so where it says lesson completed, if you will click on that, no. Down at the bottom, yep, right there. Okay, and then go into the lesson feed. As you can see, this is another place where you can see exactly what's happening with each student. Now that you're in a class that has multiple students. So it's giving me feedback on exactly what each student has done. And then scroll to, go to the lesson details and go over to streams. Now, in addition to what's already there for you, this is an awesome section because this is going to tell you additional activities that you can add on to the lesson. So to take the lesson further, to do more with the lesson. So here are some ideas that are already there for you that easily integrate with the projects and the scenes and everything that's already there. So I wanted to show you that as well. And then there's one more awesome feature. If you go back to lessons and scroll to 14, and where it says learning plan, this is a new feature. And you don't have to write your own lesson plan, guys. Here it is. So here's your lesson plan with all of your alignments there. And if you need to add things, because if you're like our school, they want to know specifically what you did for Judy or Sally or Johnny, specific to differentiate the lesson, or you need to document something specific, you can write that down at the bottom and it becomes part of the actual plan. So this is really an all-inclusive, everything's there for you software. Are there any additional questions that we did not answer?
I know somebody was asking about trying it out, like if there were options to try it out.
There will be, of course, options to try it out.
So if anybody's interested in trying it out, if you want to email me, or who do you want them to email, Chriso?
They can email you, Heidi, if you don't mind, or us, you know, it's not a problem.
Sure, if you want to email me, it's just Heidi, H-E-I-D-I, and then it's at nofearcoding.org. So I am the ISTE author of No Fear Coding as well, but I can make sure that if you do email me, I'll get you in contact with Chriso or with Alicia if you have further questions, and I'm sure they can do a trial run if you want to try out some of the lessons with your students.
Right. We will make sure that we contact everybody and then send them all our details, and yes, to set up a trial and a training of course as well, a training on the platforms.
And I love what Elizabeth put here. She put, we like the British English in, for example, Letterland. It raises discussion points about being a global citizen, even for the young learners. So yeah, good point. Well, we hope on behalf of ISTE and the Computer Science Network, you guys enjoyed our webinar. You will get a link to this webinar when it's done, and an email confirming when that video is done in case you want to watch it later or share it with other people. So we hope you enjoyed your time with us, and stay safe and stay healthy, everyone.